billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gregory, and this is The View from Out Here. Yes, you heard that right. Brian Kilmeade actually did just suggest that we solve the homelessness crisis in America by using capital punishment. Just eliminate them altogether. Which, as I hope you might imagine, brings up a number of issues. I realize that the hostile corporate takeover of the United States government is hitting us hard and fast with a virtual blizzard of insanity that we somehow have to process in real time. But I think we might want to hit pause to think about this one for just a minute. But before we get into that, I encourage you to like and subscribe with the buttons below, and maybe have a quick look at the description box. I've written some books for you that I think you might find to be of some use, and you'll find links to them down there too. Oh, and be sure to stick around for the end of this video, because something you might not have noticed about the murder of radical right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk, and it's something's kind of fuzzy. Anyway, one of the first issues that Kilmeade's comment brings up for me is that in 2025, you can suggest killing homeless people on global television while millions of viewers are having their morning coffee and still have a job the next day. But wait, there's more. I mentioned the murder of Charlie Kirk. Kilmeade's comment comes at a time when officials on both sides of the aisles agree that we need to tone down the violent rhetoric in an attempt to prevent more senseless violence like what happened last week, despite some of Charlie Kirk's own comments. And Donald Trump is certainly not helping tone down the violent rhetoric with his increasing demonization and seething hatred of the left. But in his defense, at least he's not actually killing people yet. Oh, wait.
Classified drone video shared from the president last night appears to show a speedboat going up in flames.
Now, I want to go on the record right now about being against political violence like what we're processing right now. I was bullied a lot growing up, and it didn't take long for me to make the call in my own life. I've been against violence of all kinds since 1955, which is about the time that I had the ability to form an opinion about anything other than, that I like Captain Crunch cereal. But this isn't about Charlie Kirk, though. Brian Kilmeade's comment was about homelessness, and I do have some expertise in that area. The job I retired from 2 years ago was a program to address homelessness here in Portland. I worked there for almost 20 years, and it was the hardest job that I ever loved. But the downside of that job is that when I first started working with this program, there were about 1,700 people living on our streets at the time. When I retired, there was at least 4 times that many. It was a little disheartening to walk away from a growing problem like that, but I knew that it was time for me to move on. For me, anyway. I did my little bit, and I made an acceptable living in the process, and I'm proud of the work that we did, despite its total failure. Brian Kilmeade's comment about euthanizing homeless people was in response to his co-host Lawrence Jones's lamenting about the billions of dollars that we spend on services to the homeless. And he's right. This is just like the war on drugs, and just like the war on drugs, it's a miserable failure, and it's going to get worse. One of the things that was comforting to me about that job was that I had ironclad job security. And the reason I had ironclad job security is because services to homeless people is a growth industry. And it's a growth industry because we continue to fail to address one of the most significant causes of homelessness in 2025. The cost of housing in America is simply unsustainable. Full stop. Don't get me wrong, I understand that some of it is due to drug addiction, mental health, divorce, domestic violence, gay kids being thrown out of their house because their parents are mega idiots, like I said, and a whole cornucopia of other reasons. And those are the reasons Jones and Kilmeade were focusing on when this travesty in reasoning took place. They completely ignored the cost of housing as if anyone with a part-time job washing dishes could afford a place to live. That's crazy. The first place that I ever rented on my own was in 1970 in Detroit, and I was just out of high school. It was a 2-bedroom apartment with all utilities paid, kitchen, dining room, living room, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, about 800 square feet, and it all cost me $80 a month. And that was about a third of my income at the time, and that was about the standard. Today, I live in a mobile home that I own outright. I have no mortgage. The space rent that I pay now is just over 10 times the amount I paid for that apartment in Detroit. Just the space. Utilities are extra. Today, my rent and utilities make up over half of my income. And that is the new standard. And I can't find a MAGA Republican anywhere who thinks that there's a problem with that. That apartment I had back in Detroit, there was no rental agreement, no background check, no credit report. In fact, I can't testify that my landlord actually knew what my last name was. We met, he liked me, we shook hands, I gave him my money, and I had a place to live. Try to do that today. I'll get the popcorn and grab some soda pop. This ought to be good. I mean, when you think of the kinds of things that any homeless person is going to have to face to get an apartment to begin with, it's way different than it was for me when I was growing up. But even beyond that, there's a reason for the cost of housing in this country being unsustainable. By now, you've seen those posters and signs on utility poles in your town talking about, we'll buy your house today in any condition. Call 867-5309. See what I did there? If you get that reference, I'm pretty sure I like you. Okay, so what that refers to is companies that buy up a bunch of houses and apartment buildings, bundle them into a package that they then sell to investors. The people who make those handwritten signs that you see on those utility poles make money every time one of their referrals works out. The company that's buying up all these residences are making money on every one of these units, and the investors are making money on every unit in their portfolio in dividends. The reason the cost of housing in America is unsustainable is because of greed, and it's going to get worse until we make serious changes in the way investors are allowed to make money. There's income inequality in this equation. There's a couple of easy fixes that I have little faith is ever going to happen in this environment of unregulated capitalism, and they should be done together. Number one, pay people a living wage, for crying out loud, so that housing and utilities together fall within that 33% of income, like it was back when America actually was a land of opportunity. That will have the added benefit of stimulating the overall economy, because people will not be limited to spending their whole paychecks on survival. They will have money to spend on luxuries like going out to dinner and a concert, or maybe the symphony or a live theater or something. Maybe get some new mag wheels for their Toyota, or remodel the kitchen that still has those avocados or burnt yellow appliances from the 70s. That's one solution. Here's another. Make it illegal to use residential housing units as investments to make money. To be honest, I believe that reasonable housing should be a human right for everybody. But I get it. I'm willing to compromise about some things. I live in a democracy, and I know that I don't always get everything that I want. But there are plenty of things for investors to make money on without exacerbating the growth of homelessness and then suggesting that we kill them. But back to Brian Kilmeade's comment about killing people for being homeless. In all fairness, he did apologize for saying that, and I'll play his apology for you now. You can make up your own mind about whether you think it was sincere contrition or just a retraction that his bosses demanded that he make in order to save his job.
Discussing the murder of Irina Zaruska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I'm obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion.
I don't know what I think about Kilmeade's apology personally. I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt against my better judgment. I've heard him say some pretty outrageous things. What do you think about all this? There's a comment section below, and I wish you'd use it to let me know what you think about all this. Okay, now I want to show you a clip. I mentioned this at the top about Charlie Kirk. Now, this was brought to my attention by another YouTube channel. I think it was iHip News, but don't quote me on that. I'm an old man, and I can miss a few details here and there. Give me a break. This is the footage that we all saw of the murder of Charlie Kirk in Utah last week. Now, don't worry, we're not going to show the grisly details because the video cuts away at the sound of the shot, as it should. I mean, we don't need to be reminded of such carnage for what I'm talking about today. Now, when this was brought to my attention, it was described to me. There was no video with it. My immediate response was to think it was probably conspiracy theory clickbait. So I went looking for the footage to see if there was really something there. Now, while you're watching this, I want you to focus on the guy in the white baseball cap that's standing right behind Charlie Kirk. Watch what he does just before you hear the shot. Then you might have to watch it again, and I want you to notice the guy in the black shirt standing next to him behind Charlie Kirk, right before you hear the shot. There's some action there. Well, see for yourself.
All right, we're going to get started, everybody. You know how it works.
12:11 p.m. Kirk begins speaking, opening debate and answering questions from individuals in the crowd. At 12:23 p.m., Kirk is hit with a single shot to the neck, appearing to come from an elevated position on a nearby rooftop. Video shows Kirk being carried by 6 men to an SUV, which transports him to Timpanogos Regional Hospital.
I'm not sure what, if anything, that means, but it looks awfully suspicious to me. What do you think? Again, there's a comment section below. Let me know what you think. Meanwhile, my name is Gregory, and this has been The View from Out Here. Much love.